Hey everybody, welcome on back to the Rubbin is Racing podcast. It's myself, it's my main man Spider in Chicago, sitting directly next to Quiggs in Chicago. And then behind the ones and twos, the guy behind the curtain, maybe the voice of God, is Manoli Stavrakis, filthy Greek. The Rubbin is Racing, this podcast is brought to you by Cabo Wabo Tequila, which I have out here in front of me right now. It's the official tequila partner of NASCAR. It's unquestionably Mexican tequila with an undeniably American attitude. It isn't just tequila, though. It's damn good, thick cut, 100%. Do you remember what type of agave it is?
Blue Weber agave.
Blue Weber agave tequila. 100% Blue Weber agave tequila, thick cut. It's the official tequila partner of NASCAR at a bold splash to race day watching with Cabo Wabo Tequila. If you're heading to Atlanta this week, you can celebrate race day by having a nice drink with Cabo Wabo Tequila. It wants to remind you to leave the driving to the professionals. Please enjoy the thick cut, bold taste of Cabo Wabo Tequila responsibly. So grab your buds and a bottle of Cabo Wabo Tequila for the boldest race day experience. You got to be 21 years or older to enjoy this, and you have to handle it responsibly. Thank you so much, Cabo Wabo. All right, let's get to it, boys. Headlines from this week, just a couple. I thought it was kind of interesting. The CEO of NASCAR, Steve O'Donnell, says that negotiations to add a new auto manufacturer are heating up. Dodge had dropped off in 2012. I think Dodge had then petitioned to get back in either 20 or 21, but it hasn't happened yet. But right now, it looks like Honda is the front runner to be the fourth manufacturer, along with Chevy, Ford, and Toyota. I don't know why that struck me as funny or struck me as weird. There's a chance there's going to be Hondas wheeling around Talladega, which I don't know. It's a sign of the times.
I don't. Yeah, that strikes me as weird too.
Yeah,
I love it.
I don't think anybody's going to want to be in a Honda.
So, so then what do they do? I'll ask you first, Quiggs, then. What do they do when Honda comes in? Does it give you a rocket ship car at a discount price to everybody else, and if it proves itself to be fast, then other people jump on board? That's got to be the way, right?
I think so. I think you go after the smaller teams, give them a better offer than they're getting, and that's your way in. But I don't really know how that works. I've never been around for a car like a manufacturer introduction.
Like Team Penske, for example, or one of these teams that races in IndyCar as well. Did they drive IndyCar? Or did they drive Honda in IndyCar for Team Penske? Like that would be a team.
Yeah,
I would say if I have a team that's in IndyCar as well as NASCAR, I would go to them and sell an opportunity to drive for Hondas in both of them at the same time.
Spider, I have a tailored question for you. You become a NASCAR Cup Series driver, which eventually is going to happen, from what I see. And would you want to be the first guy to be because if they come on board, there's a chance that they'll be on board forever. And I'm sure there might have been pushback for the first people to step behind the wheel of a Toyota, sit behind the wheel of a Toyota. Would you want to be the first Honda driver in the Cup Series?
I think whoever that person is going to have a real opportunity before them, because if they go on and show even a little bit of success, they have the opportunity to become the flagship Honda driver, if you will. So yeah, I think it's a great opportunity. They kind of get to write the story of what that means. So yeah, I think it'd be very cool. It's a new opportunity, and the better you do, the more attention and love they're going to keep feeding you as you go. So it could really help your career in the long term.
Yeah, I agree. The only other headline I have is Chris Buescher. I thought it was kind of cool. He returned to North Carolina this weekend for the birth of his child. He got to Daytona, had qualified. Then Buescher's wife, Emma, gave birth to a baby boy on Thursday night. So he flew home on Friday. He wasn't there when the baby was born, and then came back on Sunday to race. He wound up finishing 18th, and probably it helped him out that we had the rain delay. So congratulations to Chris and his wife. A healthy baby boy, which is always good. Let's get into it. So we sent a lot of people, and we spent a lot of money sending all these people down to Daytona, and it was a fucking total washout for us. We had, I think, a crew of 13 from Barstool down there, and as soon as we touched down on Friday, it started raining, and as soon as we took off on Monday, it stopped raining. That's a fair assessment. It seemed like, I don't mean to make assumptions, but we did bring 2 gay guys down with us. So perhaps Mother Nature and God just hates gays or does not want them to come into NASCAR. That's the only thing that I can think about, because it was a terrible, not a terrible experience. NASCAR managed to, obviously entertain us as they always do. But I'll dance around a little bit, then we'll get into the specifics of the weekend. But in Cup qualifying, Joey Logano broke Chevrolet's 11 race streak by winning the pole for the Daytona 500 in the new Ford Dark Horse. Chevy's just been on the pole forever, and in comes Logano, and then McDowell also started in the front row in a Ford. So it was nice to see that kind of go through. We had spoke to Joey live at our live show on Saturday, which went off without a hitch. It was pretty cool. And then in the duels, we had 2 Toyotas win. We had Reddick and Chris Bell. And after Chris Bell had won his duel, there's actually a clip up where he didn't even know how to get to the winner's circle. Did you guys happen to see that?
What was it? Denny told him. Yeah.
And poor Chris Bell was shut out with no place to go. And so that had kind of happened. Those were the things that they were able to get off relatively on time. And then when the rain came, everything just kind of turned to shit. So, Spider, I'm going to have you kind of go down what we did on Friday, right? We got there Friday. It was probably the best day for us because we were able to go to 2 events. What did you think?
Yeah, Friday was really cool. NASCAR, they do a great job leading up to the Daytona 500. One of the cool parties that they throw is basically in a jet hangar. So they rent out a jet hangar, they put in a stage and like the little bars, and they basically just throw a party for all of their industry friends. And it's really cool, good networking event. A lot of cool people there. Was speaking to some of the Trackhouse guys, met a lot of very cool people, and then they just had the truck race on in the background on giant projector screens, which I seem to be like one of the few people actually watching. Everyone else was kind of just in line at the bar mingling. Understandably so. It was really cool, sick venue. But
you and I, were standing with our backs to the young lady who was performing. And she was very good. I thought she did a very good job performing.
Carly Pierce, yep.
Yeah, she was going on the same exact time that we watched Nick Sanchez, right? We were there watching Jack Wood kind of get fucked towards the end there because he got taken out. But in a hangar that was filled with hundreds of people, it was just Spider and I watching. And by the way, that was the only race that we got to kind of see in Florida, even though we were seeing it kind of different. I thought it was cool, though, when we got out of there and we got to that little more intimate party, though, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. So after on Friday night, we went to the Monster the Beast party. Shout out our guy JD, who we gave a shout out to last week. But it really was a great time. A lot of drivers were there. I spoke to Denny Hamlin for, I think, 25 minutes. Got to figure out what was the deal with the logo change and what he thought how he was portrayed in the Netflix documentary, which he thought was 100% accurate, which I thought I was pretty interested to hear, I'll say. But it was great. Ty Gibbs was there, Tyler Reddick, and yeah, a lot of drivers, a lot more industry people, and it was a cool spot at the Streamline Hotel, which is the birthplace of NASCAR, which was the first time I was there, and just a really fun event. And again, we say it hundreds and hundreds of times, but the coolest thing about NASCAR is the accessibility. So we were there like with Frankie Borelli's father-in-law, for example, who got to meet Chase Elliott at the Streamline Hotel, and we didn't see any racing all weekend, but the fact that he got to say hi to Denny and Chase Elliott will stick with him. So it's little things like that, and just that we're lucky for, the accessibility.
And we went down there not knowing what was going to be rained out. Obviously, we don't have a crystal ball, and it rains every day in Florida, so you don't know what to believe and what not to believe. But it was a really good start to the weekend. The hangar party was cool. And then going to this, like I was ordering a drink and I casually bumped into somebody. I was like, oh, excuse me, Chase Elliott. And then I got to speak to Chase for a little while. I was like, by the way, I'm looking forward to spending a lot of money betting on you this week and, and all season. And he was like, I'll do my best. Chase isn't overly talkative or anything, but it's kind of cool to see him out in the wild. Kurt Busch tearing it up with the Nasty Beasts. That's the new drink by, I guess it's a hard tea. It doesn't have any kind of energy drink or anything like that. But, yeah, those guys were very accommodating to our big group. We had everybody up there schmoozing. Kurt Busch was up there, too.
I didn't see Kurt, but I believe he was there.
Yeah, and that's the hotel. You had given me the history on it, which I loved. But that's the hotel where they also filmed the new ad for Nasty Beast, where Tyler Reddick kind of shows up to the pool with the zinc oxide on his nose and his son, and he walks out to this pool, and it's filled with bikini babes, and he's like, what the hell's going on? And there's like Kurt Busch laid out on, like a poolside chaise drinking Nasty Beast. It's a pretty cool commercial, and that's where they filmed the whole thing. And then that's where we were with JD and the boys from Monster. So shout out to them. I thought it was very good. And then as you moved into Saturday, we were still on hold on what we were going to do. We were doing some stuff down there with Cabo. The Cabo Wabo tequila smoke shows were everywhere. Every event that we went to, it's really taking over NASCAR. It's kind of cool to see because, we're kind of part of that family. But we went by.
It's like Kentucky Derby has the mint julep or whatever.
Yeah.
And the Daytona 500 has the Cabaritos.
Yeah.
The smoke show.
And there was a contest where a guy had won like 10 tickets to the Daytona 500, and Spider and I were picking him up in like this custom bus. The whole deal. We had so much stuff that unfortunately wasn't able to go through because of the weather and because of the postponement. But I will tell you, on Saturday, as I alluded to before, we had what wound up being a pretty good live show. These live shows that you see on the Midway at NASCAR races can be hit or miss. We had done one in Bristol, and it was like at a weird time at an empty venue, so there might have been like 5 or 6 people. And there's nothing more, I don't know, it just takes the wind out of your sails. But there was a lot of good energy in and around the Barstool activation, and we just had everybody up there. It's myself and Spider obviously kind of running the show, Patty and Joey for diversity. Then we had Kevin and Fights, and then we had Zane Smith. Like, Zane Smith came up, did a very, very good job, even though he was, like, Joey was asking him whether or not there were electric windows in the car or how much he paid for the lease of the car that he's racing. Did you put any money down? And then shout out, like, door bumper clear. Freddie Kraft had come up, hung out with us for a while, and then Mamba, I think Mamba's now part of this new Kevin Harvick
He's a
happy
superstar.
hour. Yeah. So, Mamba's up and coming, or continues to, move up in the world of NASCAR, but he still takes time to kind of hang out and do content with us. So I think driver-wise, we had Zane Smith, and then I stayed on with Marty Smith, and we had Joey Logano, then we had Ricky Stenhouse, Austin Dillon, Ross Chastain, Noah Gragson, and Ryan Preece. So it's like, it started to rain a little bit heavier, and I was sitting right underneath where there was a hole in the tarp, so I essentially looked like I swam to the event. And but it was good. I was very glad that we got to speak to everybody, including Joey saying something that I'm going to ask the Daytona 500 winner in a little bit. By the way, we have William Byron flying into New York to do this interview along with a couple other interviews. So we're going to have William Byron coming up in just a minute. But Joey Logano had said, and he has a lot of NASCAR wins, so he has the luxury of saying this, that the Daytona 500, having a win in the Daytona 500, is worth 6 regular season wins. He would give up 6 of his regular season wins to get a win in the Daytona 500. I think that's probably, accurate. Ricky's like, I don't have 6 wins to give. So, it was one of those things that was a moot point for him. But so that's what happened on Saturday. And then Sunday sucked. We'd gone back to the racetrack. We were hanging out in the infield. We had the big RV. Shout out Chef Jason, right? That's the dude, Spider?
Chef Jason, yep.
Yeah.
Great.
Who went
Take
down
care of us all weekend. Did
not stop. So, like I said, this whole crew, Pavs and Jackie and everybody who were down there, we were treated like fucking kings once again, but we just couldn't get the race off. I had actually spoke to one of the NASCAR guys and said, when can you cut bait on Sunday? And he'd said to me, I'd asked him on Saturday. He's like, Large, you don't understand. We got 110,000 people in the grandstand, and we're sold out. We can't cancel a Sunday race and then have flaky Florida weather, have all the rain blow out in the morning, and it be sun shining, and actually have a spot where we could have raced, because that would be more detrimental than just keep on postponing whether or not it's going to go on, and then finally having it delayed until delaying until we finally postponed it until Monday. So that was it for us. We had to get back, so we couldn't stay Monday. We were flying out Monday. We were flying out of Orlando. We couldn't get anything tight, so that's like an hour and a half from Daytona. So we didn't get to see a lick of racing except for a little bit of the truck races on a big screen TV, and we were down in Daytona for 3 days. Kind of blows, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the race. Let's talk about the race itself because they did get the race off yesterday. I thought it was a good one. I had a little bit of fun watching it at home, and then the Xfinity race had followed right afterwards. The Xfinity race had ended at like 2 minutes to midnight, which I think is an Iron Maiden song. So 2 minutes to midnight. But otherwise, there was a chance that they would have actually been technically racing on Tuesday also. So we're about to be 3 weeks into the NASCAR season if you count this clash, and we still haven't seen any Sunday racing. Spider, what do you got? What did you have? And I got a bunch written down too that we could talk about. But what did you have as far as over and unders as opposed to doing just a traditional recap? What did you see that was that was big?
I think I'm going to keep it pretty simple this week, and I'm going to give overs to every driver that competed in both races last night. Really impressed if you can race both in the 500 and then the Xfinity race immediately following that. I know Daniel Suarez did it. I know John Hunter Nemechek did it. Riley Herbst did it. There's a few other guys I'm missing. AJ Allmendinger was in there. There might be one other one, but either way, massive commitment. And when you sign up to race the Xfinity race, you think, oh, I'm racing on Saturday. And then, when rain comes around, it can really screw up your plans. So I commend those guys that stuck by it and did it. And they had pretty good performance. I mean, John Hunter and AJ Dinger finished top 10 in both races. So hell of an effort on both of them. And I think Dinger has now finished the last 10 Daytona 500 races, which is a feat in itself. He actually finished the race. No DNFs in the last decade for AJ Dinger at Daytona. I'm really impressed with him. I had him as a long shot plus 8,000 thanks to a DraftKings boost. He almost won this fucking thing. If they had to reset him there and they didn't end the race the way they did and give it to Byron, I think that Dinger would have been aggressive on that last restart and would have been in a really good spot. I have to say the same about Chase Briscoe. He was involved early in a wreck, and he stuck around. Bubba Wallace was out of gas. He managed to finish 5th. So really impressed with those guys that I kind of took flyers on, but mostly the guys that ran both races and did it well.
I think Alfredo did it too.
Yeah, Alfredo did.
Alfredo, I might have missed Alfredo. Yeah, you're right.
Alfredo was out pretty early in the 500, right?
Yeah.
And then also I want to say Natalie Decker. At one point I saw on Twitter, a lot of people like to make fun of her. This girl was like plus 50,000 to win the race, and cars that were already out of the race and in the garage were like plus 20,000. She went on to lead laps in this race. She finished on the lead lap. She finished 18th place. I think she's one of a few females to ever do that, so credit to her, and I think she definitely over-delivered.
Not to be a hater, but that
celebrating an 18th place finish.
No. And this is not against Natalie or anything, but just I don't know if that's considered leading. If you're just kind of not pitting, and you happen to be with 3 cars that didn't pit.
What a fucking hater, huh, Spider?
I am a hater. I hate on a lot of things on this show.
He's misogynistic is what he is.
I'm not misogynistic. This is for anyone.
Yes. Yeah.
I just don't know if you can really consider that the lead. I think everybody's got to cycle through.
I got a couple other overs.
Go.
Jesse Love, I wasn't familiar with his work, okay? This kid went on a tear in Xfinity last year, now coming into the Sheldon Creed card. He looked unbelievable in that RCR2 car early in this Xfinity race. He got involved in a little wreck, and his car was torn up, and he still kind of hung around in the race. So I'm just really interested to see more of this kid. Again, I wasn't super familiar with his work, and now that's just one other storyline we get in Xfinity. We have SVG, we have Deegan, and then now I'm just curious about this Jesse Love kid. So there's a lot to watch for in Xfinity, and to me, again, it sucked, obviously, the rain, that it was just terrible, but the recovery was kind of awesome. All day yesterday, just watching racing was sweet, and it was really incredible day. So I think the recovery was almost worth the delay due to rain.
I think I don't know. It's probably a bad decision, but I think NASCAR should have some scheduled Monday races.
I think so too. I think not only Monday. I think how about a Thursday night?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We do Thursday night football.
Yeah, I think especially if we coming around the Olympic time, right? When we're going on that 2-week break.
Yeah.
You have the luxury of not having to have haulers do a truncated schedule, like to get to and from places. So I think this year probably I dig Monday races. I don't dig Monday races when I spend a lot of time and resources trying to get there for the Sunday race. It's just unfortunate. But yeah, I thought yesterday was a packed day of
and maybe it's the fact that we have a better setup than most, and we can go into the gambling cave and watch it all together. And some people might just not be able to watch it at work and stuff like that. But a Monday day race is always awesome, at least for me. I love it.
Agree. I think that NASCAR should consider Thursday nights, Friday nights, Saturday nights, Sundays, and Mondays.
I will tell you, I didn't want to like Jesse Love because of the way that Austin Creed had ended his career.
Sheldon Creed.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry about that.
You're good. You got Austin Hill as his teammate, so you're.
But had ended his season, I should say, right? Like it seemed like there was all that animosity. So I thought Jesse Love is like this, spoiled rich kid from the, the one of those Arcus series. I didn't want to like him, but I think I'm gonna like him. And I think probably in the overs, let's throw Austin Hill in there because he beat Sheldon Creed, his former teammate, and that's his 3rd straight victory in the Daytona 500 for Xfinity Series. So he owns the Daytona 500, not the Daytona 500, the Daytona opener for the Xfinity. So congratulations to Austin Hill. Congratulations to Nick Sanchez, which we obviously mentioned a little bit earlier. A couple of winners all the way around. What were you saying, Spider? I'm sorry.
Jack Wood, got to take the over on him. He looked really good. But the interesting thing watching last night, Andy Petrie was in the booth broadcasting the race. He works for RCR. So him narrating the kind of Austin Hill win as Sheldon Creed's right on his bumper going for the win. And I outlined the context with Sheldon Creed and Austin Hill dating back to last year at RCR. But it's just interesting to me the dynamic of some of these broadcasters have more skin in the game than appears at surface level. Like, it's interesting that he obviously had a dog in the race, that he was pulling for Austin Hill, and I'm interested to see how the reaction and the broadcast would have changed should Sheldon Creed have won the race.
You watched at least most of that broadcast, right?
Yeah, I did. I'm not going to lie. I fell asleep late in the race.
Yeah, but beyond that, did you think it was weird? Like, I tweeted something about it, and I heard it's a little bit like par for the course, but the announcers, it felt like they weren't there at the track. They were
a remote.
They didn't know.
They were at the track, correct?
I don't know. They did not know that wrecks were happening until they came on the TV. They didn't know who was involved in wrecks. They didn't know, way beyond the fact that it's a big track. They just didn't know anything that was happening on the race until a camera angle was shown for us.
Yeah. That is interesting you say that. I mean, oftentimes we're annoyed because the announcers are alluding to a wreck and we don't see it for maybe 4 or 5 seconds until they cut it or get a camera on it. This sounds like
this was there was one with Van Ginsberg and someone else, 2-car wreck, and they both collide. One goes up the track, one goes down the track, and we didn't find out that Van Ginsberg was involved until a minute and a half later.
Yeah.
And it's if they were there, they would know. They were talking about it as if it was one guy spinning out.
That's interesting. I didn't think of that.
It almost made
me
feel like they weren't there, or I don't know.
Yeah, there's some kind of disconnect, which is fine. I mean, it is what it is. I'm going to add a couple to the overs before you go to the unders.
Please.
Bowman has career best at the 500. I mean, I know he's done well at Daytona 500 before, but finishing P2 was career best, and he actually handled himself pretty well at the end of the race because the way that the race had ended, and we'll get into that in a sec maybe, he could have been like, you sure I didn't win? But he seemed very gracious and complimentary to his teammate, William Byron, winning. So shout out to him. Corey LaJoie, P4 finish, ties his best career finish at the 500. And I always forget, and you guys always lob something in on Corey LaJoie when it comes to Daytona 500, and 5 of his 9 career top 10s have come at Daytona. So that's his spot, and in the 7 Chili's car, he did another good job there. I'm going to mention Noah Gragson. First of all, that car was clean. That Ranger Boats Winchester Black Rifle coffee.
It looks
10.
just like his Xfinity car.
Yeah, I loved it. I don't know. I really liked it. We had seen him in the lobby of the hotel. He told us that his backup felt faster than his original car. He only got to do like maybe 15 laps in the backup. So he was going in it with some confidence. And he started at the back of the field, after he had to crash in the duels. But he worked his way from the rear. He led for 5 laps. And I know fucking Quiggs is going to put asterisks around that because he can't have anything nice. And he came home with a 9th place finish. So Noah Gragson back, finishing top 10 at the Daytona 500. I'm extremely happy for him. And then finally, the last over I'm going to mention is The Rock. First of all, The Rock looked like he got stung by a bee before he went up there to go do the gentleman start your engines thing. I mean, he looked like a fucking action figure, more than I've ever seen The Rock look like an action figure. But DJ Khaled got the hell out of Dodge when they postponed it till Monday, because apparently he's too fucking busy. And then Pitbull wasn't as bad. He said, I got to go because of Mr. Worldwide, but I promise I'll be back to perform at the 2025 Daytona 500. But Rock's like, nah, I flew out from Hawaii. He was staying in our hotel. He was like, I'll stick around. So Rock came out and killed it as the thing. I mean, I was expecting a little bit more like, gentlemen, la 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 la, with the eyebrow maybe. I didn't get enough of that, but
The eyebrow would have been elite.
would have been awesome. So when the things had gotten started, I think it was a very good day of racing. What do you got as any kind of under? What did you guys see that you didn't like?
I got
this
one
weekend?
more over
Oh,
I
go.
want to touch on, and that's Legacy Motor Club. I mean, John Hunter had kind of a bad start to this race, dare I say. Looked like he couldn't take the push and was responsible for the first wreck that ensued. But to put a bow on it and get a 7th place finish at the end of the day is great. And then his teammate Eric Jones finishing 8th, I think, is pretty good too. I know Quigg said he was going to be out on Legacy Motor Club this year, and I think this is a pretty promising start. I mean, sure, it wasn't flawless execution,
Sure.
but at the end of the day, we're rewarding these guys on finishing position. So respect where it's due. I think they did a good job. Jimmy Johnson, unfortunately, took the brunt of his teammates. He was involved in that first wreck caused by John Hunter. So it didn't really seem like he had a chance after that. But I think the boss would be happy with both of his other cars finishing within the top 10. On the flip side, you're asking for unders.
Yeah.
I'll take Legacy Motor Club as an under.
Okay, go ahead, Quiggs.
No, I just
You laughed at me last week. I said Eric Jones gets a win this season. I'm still saying that.
yeah, but I think Eric Jones did what I said he does.
Right.
There was no point where Eric Jones was involved in that race or a threat to win, and he just kind of snuck his way into the top 10 by probably being in the back of the pack and avoiding some of that stuff. I thought John Hunter was a little bit of a menace out there, caused a couple wrecks, and it's Talladega. It's like you almost Daytona. You almost can't blame people for most wrecks, but yeah, I don't know. I'm still under on Legacy. They're gonna have to do something more than that to prove it to me.
All right. In the name of unders, I will go with another under that I had, and that's Front Row Motorsport. They took a big step forward this offseason, becoming a Tier 1 partner in the Ford program, and I had big expectations. Michael McDowell in that 34 car has won this race before, and Todd Gilliland was another guy that I had a long shot waiver on. He looked like he was relatively involved for a good part of this race. He was running up front, and he kind of stayed up there for a while, but those guys came home 35 and 36 respectively, and I needed more. I mean, these plate drivers, Ford drivers, I thought they were going to have a good chance, especially given both their experience at tracks like these, McDowell especially, and at no point was McDowell a factor. Todd Gilliland, the guy I thought less of, seemed to be more impressive, and they finished 35th and 36th. So if there's a team that underwhelmed me, it would probably be them.
I don't know about Jimmy Johnson either. Barely making it in over J.J. Yelly. it seems like he's just not having an easy go on this triumphant return to Cup racing. But I'll throw somebody else in, Denny with the P19, right? Like I thought there was a good chance where Denny Hamlin, who had led some laps, had a pretty good race. Afterwards, I thought it would be really cool if Denny coming in 19th to give the soundbite, like just to be self-deprecating, which is something Denny could possibly do. Like just say, "I just got beat by 18 of your favorite drivers." I think that would be the logical follow-up, because when I spoke to Denny, I was like, "I'm so glad that you're giving up that little line." Like if he kept saying that line, I think it would lose its luster, particularly after all the shine it got from the Netflix special. So so I had him unfortunately as an under, along with Jimmy, and then the race is over. So now those guys who don't have a Daytona win so far, Martin Truex, that's 20 starts without a win. Kyle Busch is 19. Keselowski, 14 starts, and Kyle Larson is winless in 10 starts. So those guys are just adding to that, list of just not winning it. And I thought we were a little bit on the under too, because I was really looking forward to seeing Brad Keselowski and Joey Logano come down to the end on that. I was enjoying that chess match between those guys and working their way around some other drivers who weren't as seasoned. But Brad K versus Joey Logano, feed that to me hopefully this weekend. Feed that to me in Atlanta as well. I thought that was one of the more enjoyable parts about it. All right, let's go to the undeniable winner this week. And again, we're going to have him live in the studio in just a little bit. It's William Byron. It was a clean race. There was only 3 cautions, even though those three wrecks seem to have gotten all the headlines. And that's the fewest cautions since 2004. And like I mentioned before, Toyota won both qualifying races. Ford was on the pole, but we had a Chevy win. So your top 10 were Byron, Bowman, Bell, LaJoy, Bubba, AJ, John Hunter, Eric Jones, Noah, and Briscoe. And Byron has never finished better than 21st in his career at the 500 until yesterday, and he just got his 11th career win, even though he only led 4 laps. And by doing so, he did it on the 40th birthday of Hendrick Motorsports, and also gave Hendrick the most wins all time in a tie with Petty with 9. So just a historic night for Willie B. And what did you guys think? What did you think of Williams' performance? I'm sure Quiggs is going to shoot it down somehow. So what do you guys think? I mean, just your impressions of William Byron picking up his 11th career win and his first, obviously, at the Daytona 500.
I mean, not to toot my own horn, but after a fantastic gambling season last year, I'm already up 18 units on this season. Took William Byron. I don't know. I genuinely, so I bet on him and Truex. Those were kind of my main bets, and it was all eyes on Truex, like for basically until the end. And then Byron really kicked it on, and I think he got a little right place, right time. Maybe some guys in front of him might have got taken out. Wasn't his fault. Maybe it was. But no, I think it was a great race from him. I thought the odds were way too long for William Byron.
Yeah, I think, I agree with Quiggs. I'm happy with the result. I'm happy William Byron won. I think he's, obviously, it's not like a fluke, in my opinion. The last couple Daytona 500s we've had tremendous long shots win. So I don't think that argument really holds water here. This is a guy that led the series in wins last year with 6 of them. So definitely deserving winner. That being said, if a guy like Bowman won on a restart, I would have been kind of annoyed, because it seemed like both of those guys, Bowman or Byron or whoever you want to blame, were kind of responsible for that bad push that led to the big one, which I understand is inevitable at plate tracks, and that it was a matter of time before that happened. I'm actually surprised with how clean it was up until that point, but The matter of the fact is, it always kind of is a little bit slimy feeling when the person who does the wrecking goes on to, one, have a car with no damage, and then two, goes on to win the race. And in my opinion, that was not what happened. William Byron was a deserving champion, and as Quigg said, there might be a little bit of luck or right place, right time, but at the end of the day, that's just how racing goes. I mean, even one of William Byron's wins last year was given to him prematurely and cut short due to rain. So that's kind of just how racing is sometimes. And all things considered, I'm very happy with the result. I think William Byron's a very deserving Daytona 500 champion, and I'm happy that he did it.
I think ideally we would have had one more lap around.
Yes.
Like that caution like really threw us off to where we didn't really know if that was the end of the race, if he won it, if they were going to do overtime, if they crossed the line. And just, I don't know. I always get confused with how NASCAR decides who wins. Because you hear about these like timing loops, and sometimes it's exactly when the light comes on, and sometimes it's who was where when they last crossed a certain timing loop. And I just didn't I didn't know that William Byron won when he won. It was a little bit confusing.
Yeah, I did look at Quiggs and I'm like, is that the race? Is that the race? I wasn't sure. But yeah, all things considered, I think it was a great finish. I would have liked to see them probably get another lap in, but I've seen worse race finishes. So
we were very close to seeing Austin Cindric be a multiple Daytona 500 winner.
Yep.
Right?
And I don't think that's a fluke either. I think at some point you just have to respect that he is that driver at super speedways.
He stays out of trouble, and like Corey is another guy. I know Byron is the one who got into Brad Kay, which sent Brad Kay dangerously close to Chastain, but then sent him right into Joey. And not that Byron had done it on purpose, and might have, obviously been pushed from behind or whatever. So he did get into a little bit of some of the scraps, and he'd said right afterwards how he didn't like the way that wreck had gone down. But yeah, I think, people talk about Byron just recently gaining respect, and it makes sense, right? Because he had 6 wins last year, and now to start off the season as, Daytona 500 champion, he'll get even more respect on his name. And I think the timing for it is perfect. Anything that would have happened before that might have been premature. And where he stands in the garage remains to be seen. Right, we still need to see where Chase Elliott is right now, but in general, Hendrick Motorsports is sitting pretty, and I also think this is what I had thought too. It's so funny when I had seen Eric Jones's finish, I was like, that's the finish that Quiggs was talking about. Like when you mentioned it, you've ruined this fucking kid for me. But when I had seen this finish, and I'm the same way as you guys, NASCAR did a good job explaining that they weren't so close to throw the caution when both Chastain and Cindric were both going towards the infield, right? So we could have maybe gotten another lap because it would have been behind the leaders and would have been behind the rest of the field. But when Cindric's car had then turned and started to go up the track, that's when they did it, and that's when the photo finish had shown William Byron as the winner. But
which that other scenario is what happened in Xfinity last night.
Yeah,
they had a last lap wreck and they let them race through it just because it wasn't the way that the cars went. It wasn't a huge danger to everyone else. Yeah,
so I think Cindric's the two all of a sudden veering back onto the track. But from a Netflix standpoint, having the season start off where its biggest star of that show winning the Clash, and then going into the second, the big boy, the Daytona 500, and then having one of the stars, albeit a smaller star, like William wasn't front and center in a lot of it, but they did use him for a lot of that, hey, I'm a sim driver who now does the real shit. Like, I think that bodes well for people who are just getting into NASCAR because they watch the Netflix special. Because if Austin Cindric won his second Daytona 500, it would have been a pretty good story. I have no problems with Austin Cindric, but it wouldn't have resonated with these people that just watched the show, like that new crop of people. And the guy who won it is a certified stud. Willie B is 6 wins last year, and he's leading off again this year, and I couldn't be happier with it. I sometimes take left turns with this thing, and I wanted to do one real quick before we bring up William Byron, because Blaney didn't have a good weekend. Blaney did not have a good weekend, and he got hit hard. He got hit hard in, before the race had started, obviously in the duels, or in the qualifying, in the duels. And one of the things that they kept saying is that Thursday's hit registered as 55 G's for Blaney's crash, right? And the one that he had at Daytona last August registered as 70 G's. Like, they throw this out, and I know I'm new to NASCAR, but I was also a science guy, kind of like Quiggs, right? And so I took a look at it. So, like, G is a measure of kinetic energy, right? It's one G.
It's force.
Yeah, so 1 G is equal to the gravitational pull that the Earth has on your body. So if you're multiplying that by 55 times, that's how much kinetic force is going through your body when something happens. But how the hell do they know? So like, as a car moves fast, it creates more kinetic energy, right? And when it comes to stop, all that energy needs to go somewhere. So it goes into heat, like it heats up the tires. It goes into the crumpling of the car and the crumpling of the safer barrier or the wall. Like, that's how all the kinetic energy gets dispersed, but also gets dispersed into the driver themselves. How did they know 55 versus 70? Do you guys know how they knew this?
I would assume.
I know.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I do know how.
How? I know too.
Go ahead, Quiggs. Take your guess.
Well, I guess there's two. Like, you can have a accelerometer type thing where just something that measures it on your body, like an instrument to measure force, or the way you, like, if you were like, tell me how many G's he sustained, it's how quickly he decelerates. So it's you take his speed and you say he's going 180 miles per hour, and it took him 0.1 seconds to get to 0, or like you just measured the rate of acceleration, and that's pretty much what the force is.
I think mathematically, though, it's impossible to break that down to something specific because of all the other things that are taking some of those G's away from the actual person.
Yeah, that would be like a simplified
way that they measure how Ryan Blaney's head caught 55 G's versus 70. And Spider, did you just read what it was?
It's a mouth guard. It's a mouth guard.
Wake Forest School of Medicine collects on-driver head kinematics by going through special chips that they put in mouth guards that they do not have to wear. Like, all the drivers don't wear them. It's not something that NASCAR is pushing for. But I think Ryan remember when he had hit, where was it, in Nashville in June, where he hit that part of the wall that had no safer barrier?
Yep.
And that rocked his world harder than anything. And since then, he's been wearing this Wake Forest kinetic monitor in his fucking mouthpiece. That blew my mind, man. I think that's all. And, obviously he got bounced around this weekend. Thursday he hit 70 G's, and on Monday he hit another 55 because of the mouth. So whenever you guys hear, like, casually, Ryan Blaney gets hit with the force of 55 G's, that's how it's measured. I've found that fascinating.
That is cool.
Yeah, I'm going to move on, and we're going to move on as a thing. We're going to go 3 wide with the Daytona 500 winner, our good friend William Byron. All right, so as promised, we're going 3 wide with a gentleman named William Byron, Lord Byron, Willie B, whatever the hell you want to call him. So Byron, breakout year last year.
Yep.
Good career before that last year, but breakout year last year with the 6 wins. Coming into 2024, having a little bit of shine in the Netflix special. What the hell is Byron going to do? I think he came in 10th at the Clash in L.A.
Yep.
Nobody gives a shit about that. Then he goes down to the big race, has to sit in his trailer for an extra day because of the rain.
Yeah.
And then goes out and is now Daytona 500 winner, William Byron. And I couldn't be happier because he's one of the nicest guys and one of the first guys to had been on Rubbin is Racing last season when we kicked this thing off again. So it's always been a pleasure talking to you. So I know I'm not the first, but congratulations. Great thing. How are we feeling right now, William?
We're a little bit light on sleep. We've had about 2.5 hours, but yeah, it's been awesome, man. I'm excited to get back and see my guys and kind of celebrate with all my buddies in Charlotte. So it's been good. We got done with the race and was able to enjoy it a little bit with the guys in tech and kind of look at the car, just the confetti. That's what I always remember about the 500s, the confetti on the car and in victory lane. So that was cool.
Yeah, I hope people can realize what these drivers do. Unlike other professional sports teams where you have multiple players on multiple teams that can be representatives for the leagues, there's really, 30 drivers who count a lot as the representatives. So we're taping on Tuesday. The Daytona 500 ran on Monday night. On Monday night. The Xfinity didn't get done till like almost midnight.
Yeah.
So he hopped on a plane. He's up in New York, pressing the flesh. Hasn't even been able to crack open a beer. I didn't offer you one.
We had a few last night.
Oh, good, excellent.
Good.
So 217 races run over a 7-year career Cup Series, 11 wins, 84 top tens. Is it easy to say that this is the highlight of the career thus far, or is it uncomfortable to ask you that question?
Yeah, I mean, it is. I feel like for my career, it kind of got off to a slow start. I was really young when I got in the Cup Series, so those first couple of years were definitely learning years, but my boss, Mr. H, kind of he knew that going in and allowed me a chance to grow and get the team around me that we needed to succeed. So we've got a great team, and my crew chief Rudy, he's a bulldog on the pit box, so he does a really good job.
So he's obviously referring to Rudy Fugel, who's an absolute stud as well. When exactly did Rudy come over the radio and said, you know what, you got to wreck Brad Kay? Because I was very much enjoying the back and forth between Brad and Joey Logano.
Yeah.
I mean, just fun watching those two veterans sort of swallow up other cars and kind of go head to head. I was like, wow, this is old school. Brad Kay and Joey Logano coming through it. And then you just sent them. Just fucking sent them. And you know what
not
else?
Intentionally.
You also, I know, 100%. You also, when Brad Kay went, he just missed Chastain.
Yeah.
Because Rudy knew that Chastain would screw himself later on in the race by jumping down. But so I don't know if people can realize just how much mayhem, pandemonium it is being behind the wheel for any race.
Yeah.
But particularly in the Daytona 500, how terrifying is it to be in and around so much madness?
Yeah, it's controlled chaos. I mean, when you're out there, the intensity, you can see the lap time on your dash go, like you start to get in the 46-second bracket at Daytona, and you're hauling the mail. So just everyone at the end is wide open. No one's lifting. No one's touching the brake. No one's giving people breaks to collect their car. So if you're getting pushed, you're going for a ride, and that's how it was at the end. We had 3 lanes working. So it's 3 wide all the way across, and the leaders were blocking all 3 lanes, and you just get to really intense bump drafts, and you get a little bit off center, and wrecks happen. So I hated that happen, but the restart after that, refocusing, kind of racing Ross one-on-one on the front row, and then having the push from Cindric behind me. He was huge. I mean, he pushed me all the way around the racetrack, so that was a big deal. And then it got squirrely, getting in the tri-oval there, like you said. So
yeah, I can joke around about you sending Brad into the wall because William is known as one of the classier drivers in Cup Series. So I don't even know if I need to preface that. But one of the things that I found fascinating, was one of the highlights of the Daytona 500 for me this year, was whatever they did to the in-car camera, particularly around the race.
Yeah.
And obviously you're not privy to this.
I haven't seen it yet.
They showed so there was only 3 cautions, so making it the cleanest race since 2004, 20 years. But they showed these like 10 driver montages during those 3 crashes from this, and you were in it, obviously. They had you bouncing around. And just to see, because I know when I got into a car accident, if there was an in-car camera, my eyes would be closed and I'd be saying a rosary, right? But to see how you guys there is a little bit of terror. There's a heightened sense of awareness. And also just what's going on with the wheel.
Oh, yeah.
Like it caught
Death
Ryan.
grip.
It caught Ryan's thumb. And so then he's in the car like this. Daniel Suarez all of a sudden just started crossing his arms as to not get into having that rack and pinion throw his arms around. So what's that like being aware that you can't look too terrified because I'm going to see it and I'm going to bust your balls about it like a day later. What's that like having that much privacy, have that little privacy, even in the most dire of times behind the wheel.
Yeah, I mean, it's stressful. I feel like when the laps are winding down at Daytona, you're always tightening your belts tighter and tighter. So I feel like you start the race with your belts, as tight as you feel like they can get. Then you start, getting through the race, and you just nervously start just yanking on those things.
Really?
You're like, I just want to make sure I'm tucked in this thing tight when this goes wrong. And you can tell when the energy starts to build in the pack, there's very little room for error. So, if you slide a little bit left or right, typically you're making contact, and that's how the wrecks happen. So the cars are so light on their feet when you're going that fast. The cars are not stuck to the track at all. So they're kind of up on top of the track and moving around.
The Daytona 500 winner, William Byron, right? Like, that's how you'll be known for a long time.
Sounds pretty
proudly.
awesome.
By the way, this is a very heavy. Ricky was here last year with it. This is a very heavy trophy.
It's
arguably
nice.
too heavy. And then you got the ring.
Yeah.
When does the Rolex come?
It's got to come soon, I hope.
It's got to come soon, correct?
I lifted some weights in the off season, so this is a good use of that.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a flex because I haven't been lifting. But I just interviewed Joey at a live show on Saturday on the Midway down in Daytona, Joey Logano. And they had asked him to quantify, and he's a former champion, right? Two-time champion, right, Joey?
Yeah.
And also already had Daytona 500. They said, what would you give up in regular wins to win a Daytona 500? And he said, this is worth 6 wins. Joey has a much longer career than you, right? He's much older than everybody's so fucking old.
Yeah.
But do you agree with that? Like, as a guy who has, 11 wins and stuff, is this worth 6 regular season wins, perhaps?
Maybe. I mean, that's what I had last year. I feel like it stands on its own for sure. I told my team before the race, this race has its own meaning, its own purpose behind it, and then you have the rest of the season. So I feel like, I haven't even finished the Daytona 500, I don't think. So this one was the first time I've been able to see the checkered flag. So that was pretty cool to just get to the end and not be in one of the crashes.
And that's sobering, too. You've never finished the race, and now you're a champion. But again, anyone could win it.
Yeah.
We were very close to having a situation where Austin Cindric is a repeat Daytona 500 winner, which would have been wonderful for Austin. But it just seems like there's so many other people. We have a relationship with sports books who are constantly talking on how it's anybody's race, particularly from a betting standpoint.
Yeah.
And one of the guys who hosts with us, Quiggs, was all over you. So he's buying a boat now because of your win. So I hope you're happy with that thing.
I had somebody in the intros come up to me, random lady, very nice lady. She's like, I put a lot of money on you last year, and she's like, I won a lot of money. So I was like, great, I appreciate it.
And that's the whole thing too. That season last year, Bob Pockris had wrote something where you better put respect on Will Byron's name now. And I think Bob Pockris is 6 months too late writing that article. Right, like
I saw all of them last year when they weren't talking.
Yeah, so I guess so. I put a very early bet on you last season on the West Coast part as to win the championship.
Really?
Right, because I was able to catch you before you started to rattle off all those wins. I think when you did the West Coast thing, you might have pulled off 2 wins early in the season. Yeah. And by the way, you being one of our first guests here at Rubbin is Racing last season, the beginning of last season, when you pulled off one of your first wins.
Yeah.
You're the first person that told me. I said, let me know what it's like to do this for a season. And you said, Large, it's very long.
Yeah.
It's a very long season. And when you get into the middle of the summer, that's when you really feel it. And I never forgot that. Yeah. And it's way too long.
It's so long.
And particularly in the summer, there was one race where you got out.
It's the longest calendar, I think, in Major League Sports, yeah.
And you got out of one car. I don't even remember what race it was.
At the end of the year. Martinsville?
Yeah. Where you were just overheated. You legitimately sat down.
Yeah.
Like there was spit hanging from your mouth. It wasn't a good look for you. But it just... So with all those, like, physical things, Denny had said that every other sport, I can shoot a three-pointer. I can maybe get a hole-in-one on any par 3. There are no professional athletes that can do what I do.
Yeah.
Right? And you agree with that? Is that something you echo?
I do, because in stage 2 yesterday, it was too wide. Cindric was leading. Blaney was next to me. Kyle Busch was in front of me, and I was pushing Kyle Busch. And I've never gripped the wheel so hard and been inches from the wall for 15 laps in a row. And my heart rate, spiked. Like, there's no workout you can really do to simulate that amount of pressure. So I think that's unique to our sport. It's that intense effort and focus that really kind of gets you into another mindset.
And how do you feel have you found a cheat code with using some of the stuff that maybe Martin Truex isn't using? Like when I interview Martin, he's like, it was a time we used to race on Sunday, drink on Sunday night, and show back up to the racetrack on Thursday.
Yeah.
But then they go into you with the Netflix special, talk about how your beginnings had started in the sim racing stuff. Mm-hmm. Then they had you doing all that stuff, where you're hitting the lights and all that I see with a lot of boxers that I work with. Do you think that's the cheat code? Do you think that that's one of the things that sets you apart as what I'm calling right now the most extraordinary driver in all of the Cup Series? I
mean, I think all those things help. I think I try to find something new every year. I felt like last year I was a bit out of shape, so I went to work on that. But it's just trying to find something new every year to motivate yourself. I feel like this year, just honestly, I spent very little time thinking about racing over the off season. Just kind of thought about, just did other things with friends, and I feel like that was good in some ways because you come to the new season fresh, and the season's so long. So I mean, the lights and all the things my trainer does definitely help. So it's all part of the plan. If they do a Netflix series season 2, will you be giving them full access? I mean, Denny at one point had them in his daughter's bathroom. I thought that was weird. Yeah. Not in a disrespectful way, but Denny had him. Yeah. He was burning pancakes, the whole deal. Yeah.
Like, how willing
he showed
you to
a lot.
Him? Yeah.
I think I would show more. I think I would because I thought they portrayed every driver in an accurate way, and I thought, for me personally, I was worried that they were going to paint me in a certain light, and they didn't. They showed what I do. So I would probably show a little bit more. I think going in the future. On a personal note, they showed the whole Lego thing. Yeah. And my wife is a big puzzle person, and she's in love with the movie The Titanic. So I think you maybe I did. I built the Titanic.
I went on and I looked at it. I think it's like $900 to set.
Yeah.
And I was thinking,
eBay. Maybe it's back ordered.
Oh yeah, it's back ordered. Is that because of you?
I know it's not. No, when I got it a year ago and built it, it was still back ordered then. So I got it off eBay. But I mean, that thing took me like 3.5 weeks.
Really?
The tips of my fingers were done. I was cooked.
Yeah, I don't have the patience for it, but she does. Obviously, being married to me. And then I thought, is that the Byron bump? Is that the reason why Lego should throw you the free sticker? Or something like that, right? Like.
Give me some free sets,
Yeah, exactly, a little bit.
Yeah.
When you walked in, we always have a cardboard cutout of Chase Elliott looking over us.
I love it.
Because it makes us strive towards excellence. How do you feel about your teammate? I bumped into him and always very, very reserved.
Oh, yeah.
I said, Chase, I'm expecting a lot from you this year. Just know, and he's like, I will do my best. How do you feel about being around him in the garage? Because, as a teammate and stuff, I have to ask. How's his spirits and stuff like that? Because it's important for the sport.
Yeah, I think he's a quiet leader. I feel like he's very talented in the car. I think a lot of people don't, see the little details that happen on the racetrack, and very quick, with his, inputs and how he makes decisions. So, I think he's a great teammate. We work well together, and, he likes to, be reserved and kind of be in his own space, and I respect that for sure.
And what about the Chevy boys? Like going in and seeing Chevy be knocked off the pole for the first time in 11 years.
But we got the win, though.
That's what I'm saying. And then going to the duels and seeing the Toyotas sweep the duels and stuff. Going into the race, is there a little bit of chip on your shoulder? Saying, when I saw the Toyotas win both duels, I splashed a little money on Toyota to win the race. Like, why the hell wouldn't I? Yeah. And I was 100% dead wrong, as I normally am. Like, so does that put a little bit of a chip on your shoulder from a manufacturer's standpoint?
Yeah, I thought, honestly, I mean, I'll be honest, I thought going in the 500, I thought we'd have to do some strategy to get our way up there. And I felt like the Toyotas were just really strong in the duels, and you just don't know how things are going to play out. But honestly, we got a few of us Chevys linked together, started pushing each other, started working. Stage 1, I think we won the stage, or Chase won the stage, and then our strategy was excellent. I mean, the guys, like the pit strategy, they were killing it. I don't know how they talked about that in the broadcast, the saving fuel, but that was pretty impressive from our pit, our crew chiefs. And then, in stage 3, we all kind of got together on the bottom and started working and bump drafting.
Yeah, they mentioned fuel maintenance more in this broadcast than I've ever heard before.
Yeah.
right? And
it's
so
becoming bigger.
Yeah.
So it's becoming the big thing on super speedways because it's all about track position. So how can you kind of cycle your way forward to the front? So the best way to do that is save fuel and be efficient on the pit stop.
I have two questions. You know Spider. You've met Spider a couple times, my co-host. I have two questions for him. And I know that you guys were kind of moving it along because you had to get the Xfinity race in. I didn't see the big hat. Is the big hat gone for 24?
It's here. It's there. It's hidden in a few photos. You got to look through.
Is it?
But
okay, so we didn't see, but the big hat still exists.
The big hat still exists, but you never know. Daytona 500 is a once-in-a-lifetime thing, so I don't, going to have that photo somewhere. So
absolutely.
The big hat might come and go, but I like the big hat. I'll keep it around.
Right. I'm hot and cold on it.
Yeah.
Spider's a big fan of the big
hat.
Goofy. Yeah, because and first of all, it looks actually regular on me because I'm so goddamn big. Second question from Spider: what did you do during the rain delay? And I know you're a 26-year-old kid, so it's not anything where you can kind of get frustrated so quickly. But all of a sudden, if you do get this pushed off, what do you do on a 24-hour rain delay?
Well, I mean, Saturday night, I think we had a little bit of fun. I went out with my buddies and just to dinner, and I didn't think. It didn't seem like we were going to race on Sunday. So so Saturday was pretty chill. And then Sunday, went and saw the Marley movie. That was pretty good. The Bob Marley movie. Yeah, I liked it. A little hard to understand the accents. I needed subtitles.
Okay.
But it was a good movie. I like those biodocs. So that's about all I did.
Okay. And then one of our jobs is previewing the following week's race. And I'm going to ask you to help me out. What do people – so a lot of casual fans – listen to Rubbin' is racing.
Yeah.
Right? We're not as deep in the weeds as, door bumper clear and whatnot.
Yeah.
And certainly not actions detrimental. And we don't use as much cursing as Denny does.
Mm-hmm.
What can people look forward to this week in Atlanta?
Yeah.
Kind of break down as you're going in now. Man, 2 in a row to start off a season after the 6 wins last season and just picking up momentum with this fucking thing. I think it's got to be in the back of your head. I don't know. I think it's worth a bet. But what are we seeing going into Atlanta?
Atlanta is just Daytona on steroids. I mean, it's just, it's tight. My spotter goes through 3 battery packs on the spotter. He just Rudy says he never stops talking the whole race. He's just up there just the whole time. So, I mean, he has to because the stuff happens fast. It's the same style racing as Daytona, so we're all packed up in a group. So I'm sure there's going to be some crashes and things, but the track is really interesting there. You got to lift out of the throttle. You got to drive the cars. You got to be able to manage the runs and things. So it'll be a good race, I think.
You've won there before.
Yeah, we won there last year.
It's kind of nice, right? Joey had won the spring race, I think, right?
Yeah.
You had won the other one.
Yeah.
So I don't know. The stars are aligning to be the 24 in 24, and that's why I couldn't be more happy that you guys carved out enough time to stop by Barstool the day after you won the big one. So that's it. This is Daytona 500 winner William Byron. Put it in the book forever. The only time that's going to change is when he becomes NASCAR Cup Series champion William Byron. So one step at a time. Congratulations,
Thank you.
man. I couldn't be happier for you, and
Thank
I appreciate you guys coming in. That's Rubbin' is Racing. Let's get back to it. All right, so that was William Byron. As always a pleasure to have on the show. One of the first people that we had on the show when we first started doing this thing. And again, I think he's going to be a real true champion and a good champion for NASCAR someday. He had started to do our job by giving us the preview of Atlanta, but I will tell you, on behalf of NASCAR, you got to tune in this Sunday. You got to tune in this Sunday for the same exact or close to the same exact action we saw just on this past Monday. The Better Health 400 at Atlanta Motor Speedway is Sunday, February 25th at 3 p.m. on Fox. I haven't checked the forecast, but I don't think there's any rain in the schedule just yet. So Sunday, 3 p.m., Fox, the Better Health 400 at Atlanta Motor Speedway. William alluded to this. The track was repaved in 2012, and in addition to being repaved, the track was reimagined. So they increased the banking to 28 degrees, which produces this super speedway-style racing on only a 1.5-mile oval, 1.54-mile oval. So it's going to get crazy. For 2 weeks in a row, Daytona into Atlanta. Make sure you tune in on Sunday, February 25th, 3 p.m. on Fox. And we're going to close off with some picks. So we're going to be picking the tires. This is brought to you by Barstool's newest partner, DraftKings. We're excited to announce our partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook. DraftKings will be our one-stop shop for all things betting NASCAR. And this week, new customers who deposit $5 or more can get a no-sweat bet of up to $1,000 on any sport. What's a no-sweat bet? It's just like an offensive board. You miss your first shot, you get another chance to score with a bonus bet back. You can also follow what all of your favorite Barstool personalities are betting on by joining the Barstool betting group in the social section of the DraftKings Sportsbook app, and we'll be up in that section within a week or so. So here's
I think we'll have our own little group.
What's that?
I think we'll have our own little separate group.
Yes, so we're going to have our own little separate group dedicated to NASCAR. So we need you to go and do one thing. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now and use the code Rubbin, RUBBIN. New customers can get a no-sweat bet of up to $1,000 if your first bet loses. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with the code Rubbin. The crown is yours. Go join up DraftKings on the app today. All righty, boys. So we're taping this very early in the week. This is Tuesday morning that we're in here. So the Daytona 500 has basically just ended. So there are no real live lines up for the Ambetter Health 400 Atlanta this weekend. So I just thought maybe go around the room and let's just take. And believe me, if you have any picks, throw them out because Quiggs is going to run it into a graphic towards the end of the week with DraftKings. So who wants to go first? Who wants to get on the board here with some maybe a future for the season or a pick for Atlanta?
I'll give a championship pick future.
Go.
The 24 in 2004. I know it's easy to say William Byron just won the Daytona 500. He is not the favorite despite that, and I think there's still value in taking him for that reason. He's currently plus 600 on DraftKings Sportsbook. What I'm planning on doing is sprinkling a little bit of that now, and then as the season goes on, either if his odds get higher, I will sprinkle more, or if he becomes better, I will always have the opportunity to invest and double down on my investment on William Byron. But I think he's a great pick. In my blog and last episode, you guys asked for season-long predictions. I told you I think it'll be a Hendrick Motorsport driver lifting the Bill France Trophy in Phoenix at the end of the year. And right now, the sports books agree. They think it's either going to be Kyle Larson, who's plus 500, or William Byron, plus 600. Byron at 600 is still value to me, so I'm taking a little sprinkle on that. And I think that's pretty conservative pick, nothing too crazy. So I will defer to you guys. What do you got?
I'll go.
Go.
So for my season-long pick, I saw a lot of good things yesterday, and his number is, I think, very, very high for who he is. Kyle Busch plus 1,600. I thought he raced awesome yesterday, and there are a few things that were like...
Is this for Atlanta or for the championship?
I will be taking him in Atlanta, but this is for the season-long championship.
Okay.
There was a point yesterday where he got some sort of pit road penalty, got sent to the back, and on his mic, his response was, "Let's go, boys. We can still win this thing," which is, I feel like last year was just yelling at his pit crew. Like everything was like negative when things went wrong. And this, I mean, we're doing it off one race.
Mm-hmm.
So
he did climb back through the field, though. That was nuts.
There was a point yesterday where I said nobody's beating Kyle Busch. The way he was just able to go from the front to the back whenever he wanted, I think he's going to have a big season, and that number is very big for one of the stars of NASCAR. So, like him
Kyle
there.
Busch for the season?
Yeah, I'm going to take him in Atlanta, too. I think Atlanta's a good track for him. And I'm also going to take Corey LaJoie in Atlanta. He's
Fourth place last year.
He's got a lot of success in Atlanta, and he was the real deal yesterday. Like, up there for a lot of laps, had a lot of speed. Chili's car looked great. I don't know if he's running that there, but I think he's going to be pretty good odds, and I'm going to put some money on him as well. And then I'll have to see the odds for other picks, but that's what I got.
I don't know if I'm going to kind of follow you, Quiggs, with this, because I don't know if I like this guy better in Atlanta or if I like him full season. But for a while there, I was pretty afraid that no one was going to be able to catch Ross Chastain. And then even the stupid move he made at the end, which wound up being a little less stupid because I think maybe LaJoie had Ross kind of drove Cindric into him. I didn't know exactly what had happened. Ross had taken the brunt of it, saying, I thought there was a spot for me to fit in. I didn't fit in or whatever. But Ross Chastain looked very, very fast. And then thinking back to what he had done in Phoenix, he does have a little bit of momentum. I think I like him maybe going into Atlanta, and I've seen him now as plus 2,000 for the NASCAR Cup Future on DraftKings, which you can sign up using the code Rubbin. And I think I'm going to take him. I think I'm going to take him for the full season. So that's we're going to add to that. So like Spider had said, it's kind of like a super speedway. So we're going to add to that, and we'll have the graphic out later on in the week. But that's it for this week. As always, we'd love to thank William Byron again and again and again, because these guys don't need to stop in and hang out with us. But he won the race yesterday. He came in with all the hardware today, and we really, really appreciate that guy, and we appreciate Henrik letting him come here and kind of shoot the shit with us. So that's it for Rubbin' His Racing. Our next stop at a racetrack, I think, is Talladega. But while we were down there in the rain trying to figure out what the fuck we were going to do, there was a lot of other races thrown around. So I think we're going to get to a bunch of races this year, Spider. It's going to be a big one for us. I just spoke to Brianna in the elevator on the way up. She's pumped for Dega. Kevin and Fights want to come back to a race. So make sure you stay tuned to Rubbin' His Racing on all of social and whatnot. You know what? Before I leave, Manoli, the new guy, you just went to your first race, right?
We could call it that.
What's the most impressive thing from the race weekend, even though we didn't even get to see a race?
Even though we didn't see a single car drive, or at least I didn't see a single car drive, right. I hate to say it, but I think the most impressive thing was BUC-EE'S. The Daytona experience of going to BUC-EE'S quite literally changed my life.
Really?
The fact that I got a gas station brisket sandwich, and it's arguably the best barbecue I've had. Take mine, I'm from the Northeast, but still, arguably best barbecue brisket sandwich I've ever had. Unreal. This place is the size of Macy's. I can't even tell you.
25 yards of jerky.
It's unbelievable.
200 gas pumps. You can get a fucking hunting knife and a pair of pajamas and a very good brisket sandwich.
You keep telling me about the bath. Apparently the cleanest bathrooms. I didn't even get to see them.
If I get married again after I kill my first wife, I'm getting married. But I couldn't be more in agreement with you. And as a matter of fact, this is a call to BUC-EE'S to reach out to us, send us some vouchers, send us some free merch, because they just got a shout out on Rubbin' His Racing.
Please send beaver nuggets, if anything. Please just send like 25 pounds of beaver nuggets.
Absolutely. So anyone who thinks that Sheetz or Wawa is better than BUC-EE'S, it's only because you've never been to BUC-EE'S. All right, that's it for us this week on Rubbin' His Racing. We'll see you guys next week.